Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
It is February 13th, 1986. This is Agent Bill Hagmaier. I'm sitting with Theodore.
No, Ted.
I'm sitting with Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy has 13 hours to live, and he is using those hours to try and buy himself more time.
He's ready to talk. He said he's ready to confess to everything, but only talk to one person. There are families out there looking for answers.
The world needs to know why he killed those girls.
You're some hotshot young upstart, and I'm your next big case. You're going to be the guy who broke me. There are a lot of myths and misunderstandings about me.
What are you going to tell me?
Everything.
What do you think he wants?
You and I will sit down and have the conversation you've wanted this whole time.
When you get too close to a guy like this, you can lose your way.
Do you think you could kill somebody?
I'm an FBI agent.
That's not what I'm saying.
You can't hold these girls hostage.
I'm not playing games.
How many did you kill?
Let's say 30.
Let's say we talk about the real number.
30 is a nice round number. You're getting inside my head.
I'm looking for understanding.
You think they should kill me, don't you? You think it's my time to die?
Frankly, they probably should have done it a long time ago.
I'm going to take you somewhere that I've never taken anyone before. I need a moment with Bill. He's my best friend.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host Matthew Pejkovic and this is episode number 364. Releasing across the US on August 27 in theaters, video on demand and digital is No Man of God, a psychological drama that tells the true story of the complicated relationship between FBI profiler Bill Hagmaier and serial killer Ted Bundy during Bundy's final years on death row. Featuring fantastic performances from Luke Kirby and Elijah Wood, No Man of God is a serial killer movie void of exploitation and filled to the brim with smarts and depth. Joining me now is the director of No Man of God, Amber Sealey. Amber, I thank you so very much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
So, as I am prone to do, when I found out I was going to interview you, I did a deep dive into my research, and I found that you really didn't not have much of an interest in serial killers. So it was curious to me, why take on a film that focuses on the last years of perhaps the most notorious serial killer of all in Ted Bundy? What was the appeal in the script that you read that really kind of spoke to you as a filmmaker to want to take on this movie?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I wasn't, known for this genre or really kind of entrenched in it. And my first thought was like, me, a Ted Bundy movie? Like, and it kind of made me laugh. And then I thought, well, I'll read the script. And so I did. And it was such a great script. It was such a smooth read. And I found that I really had a take on it. And then I kind of liked that I was an outsider. I thought, well, obviously I know I'm a filmmaker and I have confidence in my filmmaking abilities. And I think most filmmakers feel like they have interest in multiple genres, and I definitely am one of those people. And so I thought, well, why can't an outsider tell this story? And the other thing that really rose up for me was I'm a woman, and I know what it feels like to be scared of a man, and I know what it feels like to walk down a dark street and hear footsteps behind you and be, trained to hold your keys with the keys sticking out in your fingers when you walk to your car at night. And, so I felt like, well, there's a part of this story that actually isn't Bundy's, that is, a very gendered experience. And I felt like, I know that experience. I can speak to that part of it. And even though that's not a huge part of the narrative of the film, it was a part that I wanted to kind of lay a light sort of film over it, an infusion of that kind of awareness or sensation. And so, I just felt like I was like, I have something to say. You read scripts all the time, and sometimes you're like, this one doesn't speak to me, and sometimes they do. And for whatever weird reason, this one did. And so I decided to do it. And I think also it was really about the people involved in the project. To me, it's really, I want to work with people who are artists at heart and think about film. Obviously it's a business and you want films to make money, but also, I like taking risks, creative risks, and Spectrovision also like taking creative risks. And so in that way, we were a really good partnership.
Did any of your perceptions or apprehensions in regards to that kind of film, that kind of subject, changed now that you've actually dived into the deep end in regards to the whole kind of Ted Bundy serial killer experience?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I certainly, when, I think a lot of people say, another Ted Bundy movie, do we need any more? And I think that's a really valid question, and I think that, there are two things that can simultaneously exist. You can be both interested in that kind of, terror or horror thing that happens, and you can also be questioning why we're interested in that kind of thing. And so to me, I really tried to keep both of those things alive at the same time. But if people say, well, you're as guilty as anyone, Amber, because you also made a Bundy movie, they're not wrong, And at the same time, I still felt like there was something new to add to the canon of films on Bundy. I felt like, we had a different angle. I've seen his life, or I've seen people be genuinely curious about, the court cases, and his relationship with, Liz and other women in his life. But I hadn't seen the relationship with Bill before. And I didn't really know that much about that part of his life, the end of his life. And so to me, it was new information that we were, sharing or, exploring. So I don't know if that quite answers the question, but it's certainly, I think these things are so complex. I feel like the interest in the true crime genre, one could argue that's a bad thing, that we shouldn't be interested in that kind of thing. And I don't think those people are wrong. And at the same time, I also think that the interest in true crime and horror and genre, that genre stuff, I do think there's a very human and good thing that comes at the core of that. I think that when we are driving on the freeway and we rubberneck and we see a car crash and we look to see like, oh, what happened to those people? I think that's a very human instinct. And I think it comes from a place of like, oh, those poor people, what happened to them? Are they okay? I think it comes from being concerned about other humans. So, so again, it's one of those complex things where both the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative can exist at the same time.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by 80s Tees. 80s Tees is an online retailer of licensed t-shirts and pop culture gear from your favorite movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, comic books, and musicians. Celebrate your inner 80s nerd and click on the link in the show notes below to get the raddest retro t-shirts delivered to your door. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Loot Crate. Founded in 2012, Loot Crate is the worldwide leader in fan subscription boxes. Loot Crate partners with industry leaders in entertainment, gaming, sports, and pop culture to deliver monthly themed crates, produce interactive experiences in digital content, and film original video productions. No matter what you geek out about, Loot Crate has a subscription box for you. To get your very own exclusive collectibles, apparel, and gear delivered to your door, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is also brought to you by Vudu. Watch the latest movies and TV shows anytime, anywhere. No subscriptions, no contract. Enjoy stunning quality in up to 4K ultra high definition at home and download and watch on your mobile device as well. To rent and buy from over 100,000 titles or watch thousands of movies free with Vudu Movies on us, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. Now, back to the show. Luke Kirby plays Ted Bundy in the film. He's terrific. I think it's the best performance I've seen of that portrayal of that person yet I've seen on film. He was very reluctant, though, himself to take on the role. And he has said that you've had to, speak to him and convince him that this was the role for him to take on. What was it that you said to him that kind of swayed him to take on the role? Because whatever you did, it worked really well because he's just fantastic in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm definitely, biased, but I think he's definitely the best Bundy. I really wanted him to play the part, and I just couldn't get him out of my head. And so, yeah, we offered it to him through the normal channel through his agents, and he turned it down. And he's friends with friends of mine, and I just thought, I just want to talk to him. I totally respect why he wants to turn it down, and I just want to talk to him. I wanted to know more about why, and I wanted him to know what my kind of take was on the film. And so we met in a park, actually, at the very beginning of the pandemic. We met and we had a socially distanced park walk where we talked for a few hours, actually, and I just shared with him, how I wanted to go about it and how, for me, this wasn't about it being, a recreation of his crimes or a kind of fetishization of his crimes, that this was more exploring the relationship between the two men, the effects that relationship had on Bill, and then also questioning, what do the women in the room think, and why are we so continually interested in Bundy? And I don't have the answer to that question, but I love asking the question. And so I think he just, was really on board with that. He was, not knowing me and not knowing what my kind of take was going to be. I think, he first was worried that it was going to be, just a kind of slasher film, and he just wasn't interested in doing that kind of thing. So I think once we talked, we found we had a kinship, and he was wonderful. Really, just a joy to work with.
Bill Hagmaier is such a fascinating man. You actually got a chance to meet him. What were your impressions of him, having met him a few times in your research of this film?
Yeah, he's a wonderful man. So because of the pandemic, he lives in Virginia and I live in Los Angeles, and so we have not met in real life, but we have, in person, but we have shared many phone calls and many emails, and he sent me stuff in the mail, and obviously, he gave us those recordings of him and Bundy, the actual recordings, and so I've listened to all of those, and he was such a great resource. I had so many long phone calls with him where he told me, everything I wanted to know. He was very generous. He was really a wonderful resource of information, and I could ask him anything, all the way from how did this feel, did it affect you, all the way down to like what color ties did you wear, and send me pictures of your haircut so I can copy your haircut. So he was, he's a really lovely guy. He's a very special person. He's I think he has just a natural kindness and empathy to him. I think he comes at things not with judgment, but really with love. And I think that really informs a part of how he's so good at his job. He uses that in his work. And certainly some of it is an act, right, when he's sitting across from somebody. But I do think there's just a genuine curiosity and goodness to him that enabled him to be such a good profiler.
The movie touches on many different themes. I think something that really spoke out to me is the duality of man. At this table, you have Bundy, you have Hagmaier. Different circumstances perhaps could have them on opposite ends of the table. That duality, that a capacity for good and evil to be within everyone, and it just takes certain decisions, certain upbringings, certain other factors to just change how a person approaches violence and such. Is that something that really spoke to you in regards to the relationship between these two men? Yeah, it definitely spoke to me. I think that, first of all, I do think that Bundy had I think he had some pretty severe mental illness. I do think he was a psychopath, so that's definitely a part of it. But talking about that part, I think that we all have good and evil in us. I think we all have to continually make choices to be good people, basically. I think we all have, experiences in our lives that were maybe not good, and we could choose to let those things filter into making us bitter, angry, mean people. And I think it is work constantly to approach the world from a place of love and not from a place of judgment. And for me at least, it's certainly constant work. Like I'll drive on a freeway and why'd that person cut me off? And then I have to just be reminded, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know if that person didn't see me, or maybe they're rushing to get their kid who's late, they're late to pick their kid up or something. I just don't know what they're going through. So to me, it is a part of kind of the human existence that we do have to constantly make a choice to come from a place of love and to care about our fellow humans. And I think, particularly right now, what we're going through in the pandemic, right? Literally the air that we exhale could kill our neighbors and our community. And so it's really important, especially now, to make choices that show that you care about others. So for everyone listening, No Man of God releases Friday, August 27th across the states in theatres, video on demand and digital. It's one of my favourite films of the year, Amber, and I think you've done really great work here. It's a fantastic film and I hope everyone does get to see it. And congratulations to you and thank you so much for your time today to talk about it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.